G'day everyone, all things Bulldogs. Welcome Doggies fans. I got me bloody introduction mixed up. We'll start again. G'day Doggies fans, all things Bulldogs, episode 57, and welcome to the podcast. We have Jayden from Just Bulldogs Podcast. He's been doing that for a couple of years. He's on Spotify. He's on all the different podcasting outlets. They're short, they're sharp, they're sweet, and he gives his opinion. And and it's developing quite a little listener base there. You can see it on YouTube as well. But welcome to the show, Jayden. Thanks for joining, mate. How are you?
Thanks, mate. Very good. Happy to be here. Appreciate the invite.
We've been trying to make it happen for a while. We finally got there in the last game of the season, which is fantastic. We're also going to have Dave on tonight, or D as people know him, but D's a little bit unwell, so he'll be watching from the sidelines today, but you'll see him back on again one day soon. Look, lots has happened. We had a loss. We've been brought back down to reality. We'll talk about the Manly game, have a look at some of the stats, and then it'll be on to the big preview for the Cowboys game. We'll go through the teams, what we think is going to happen, what we're worried about, what we're concerned about, what we're happy about. And I'll discuss some of the scenarios, if you're not quite across it, on what it could mean if we lose, etc., and other teams win. It's pretty clear cut what could happen, though, for us. But, Jayden, before we get into it, when did your journey as a Bulldogs fan start? Tell me about the Bulldogs, who you grew up loving, and that sort of thing. Who's your heroes?
Yep. So lifelong supporter. Was probably slower supporting when I was a young fella. The family didn't follow it too crazy. But Mum was a dog supporter. She's from up Bankstown when she was young. Yep. When I was a kid, Hassan was always my favorite. Big time Hassan fan. Try to kick like him, definitely couldn't. But then, as I got older, Josh Morris was next in line as my favorite then. Massive Josh Morris fan, and then Brett Morris coming over was pretty special. Didn't get to enjoy any of the grand final wins. I was alive, but very young, so don't remember them. And then 2012, 2014 was the best memories. Ben Barber and the like. Those were pretty good years, but it's been pretty bleak since then.
Yeah, it has. All right, so welcome to the live chat. We've currently got Dave on from WA, Jamie Teasdale, and Mark O'Connell's just joined, our champion bus driver, and he's like, "G'day Bulldogs fans and others." That's right. We're going out to all the rugby league fans now that love us. But anyway, but especially Bulldogs fans. Cowboys fans, I hope you get flogged this week. G'day, Timothy. Tim and Mark have also been on the show as well. So thank you for joining, guys. It's great to have you back. And we're doing the All Things Bulldogs Top 17. So Luke Patton's already been named as the fullback from 1979 till now, as the number one voted for fullback, and the wingers are quite clear cut as well. So we've got Hazamel Magic and Matty Utai in a clear second place. Daryl Halligan polled really well as well. So far it's the 2004 side that has dominated the first few positions. I'll put the centre positions up in the coming days for people to vote on. G'day, buddy. All right, so let's get into it, Jayden. The Manly game. What was your thoughts on it?
It started off red hot, trying the first minute. Got us going. But it really looked like our defense just didn't really turn up as it has so far this season. We got rolled through the middle pretty consistently. We didn't have a lot of attacking sets, and there wasn't really any flow to the game. I think we do our best work coming out of our own end and then building pressure. I think we had bugger all even get out sets because there was no consistent footy on the field. Whether we were giving up Manly ball in our own end or not finishing off our own sets to give it to them in our own end, just didn't really go our way. And that just led to Manly rolling through us pretty consistently through the game until the last 20 or 15 so minutes is when we sort of got into a real grind, but it was too late for anything to happen from there.
Well, we owned the first 5 minutes, but that first attacking set till we got the penalty, and then we got the try off the penalty. They had us pinned, and they're not the first team to do that to us. It's just about whether teams can do it consistently. And I actually think our errors actually made it look a lot worse for us, and is why Manly were able to put on the points. I do believe there was a few players out there that were 1% down maybe, which collectively is all you need to be down to have an issue. But in front of 35,500 fans who, cheered the whole way, they were silenced a little bit. I think the stats tell a story, which is probably surprised me a little bit. And when I went and watched the game again, I actually Canterbury had more than enough chances to do well in that game, but it was our errors, and those errors were brought on a lot from the pressure that we're suffering in the middle and the frustration. And you're right, we couldn't get any good ball or get out of our own end, and our kicking game, while Burton was landing them and Toby consistently landing them on the 10 or between the in goal and the 10, Tom was able to get back to the 20 to the 25 and get away a really quick play the ball and get their set off to a good start. Their back three, hit up number 2 and hit up 3 were good, and then their forwards were able to leverage from there. We dominated possession again, which is we lead the comp in, and it is to do a lot with how we play. But our completions were horrible. We ended up having, more runs than Manly. We made more meters than Manly. Post contact's normal for our game. Line breaks ended up being equal. Tackle breaks, we lose that stat every week as well. We had a greater set distance than them. Our kick return meters the same, but there we see the tail of the game. And as you're talking about the way that they dominated us, Manly 3.16 seconds in their play the ball. That's big men dominating the ruck. And we also found it hard to get the numbers in that we've been getting in. And that sort of meant that we didn't have an ability to have a proper kick chase, which has meant that Daly Cherry Evans was able to kick wherever he wanted to. And for the first time this year, the opposition team, I think, outkicked us in kick meters as well. So we started that second half really, really well with and without the ball, and we got that disallowed try. And then they only had, a period of 8 minutes where they scored 2 tries. And that was the game done right there and then. But we were pretty much on top from then on, and made the stats look a lot better than what they would have looked like in that first half. Tackles, that's the least amount of tackles we've missed in a long time, 34. And come up with a loss. So it was, but there's a stat right there, 11 errors, quite similar in other areas. We only used 6 interchanges. We had 1 head injury assessment. So there you go. That's my thoughts on the game there. Let's look at the feedback, guys. What's everybody saying? Surprised Chris Anderson didn't come tonight. Yeah, me too, mate. Oh, you're surprised you didn't make it in the top 17? Yeah. Jamie's Teasdale sloppy. We were just ordinary, flat as a kangaroo on the Hume Highway. But parts of the game, I still felt that we dominated. Well, not dominated, but I felt we had our opportunities in that game. We just didn't defend.
There was just before halftime, we had I think repeat sets going at Manly's try line. Didn't quite look like scoring, but a very good chance to. And then that disallowed try straight after halftime. If those two moments go our way, then it would have been a completely different game. I think we would have been well in the mix to come away with a win if those two segments of the game went a bit differently. So I don't think we were too far off it. We definitely weren't at our best. So if we can figure out those two spots, then yeah, I definitely think we would have been able to compete with them, probably potentially come out with a win. But yeah, not too far off, especially when we're not at our best. If we can fix a couple of things, we should be able to compete with just about anyone coming into the finals.
G'day, Khalid. Khalid's a really dedicated content creator for Bulldogs for Life. If you've seen his fan page, I'm sure most of us would have, constantly giving updates for Bulldogs fans on every bit of stuff that's there. Thanks for coming and saying hello, Khalid. Welcome to the podcast. If Mark Connell off the back of a great DCE 40-20, just can't beat that. Yeah, that was a real thorn in our sign where we were. Also, that changed the game a lot as well. Timmy says, I reckon at least half of the errors led to Manly scoring tries on the back of penalties. We've been punished for our errors this year. And, it happens a lot. I think that, Burton going off didn't help as well with the HIA. And that disrupted us a bit. They scored a try just after that.
Yeah, when Burton went off, it was pretty much the dagger. We weren't in a great spot then, and then that sort of wrote us off.
Yeah, Timmy agrees that 40-20 from DC was the turning point, and then Burton went off the HIA. No problems, Khalid. They probably could have put 50 on us, but we held on. We held in there. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I said to Pete, who runs all Things Bulldogs with me, he does most of the work. Mark does a lot of work there as well. Look, Pete, I said to Pete with about 25 to go, or even at half time, I said to him, win or lose, this is a game we sort of needed. Whether we go on and win it or lose it, this is the sort of thing we need to see how far away we are actually from where we need to go. Because that blueprint is how you beat the Bulldogs. It's the Manly big forwards were able to stay high with the contact. They were able to target our small men and able to, run at the right angles as well, which is very, very important. And it's where they fall and play the ball. Now, because they're able to all get to cut and play the ball quickly, and look, their support play, they had plenty of players around the ball. They were doing a lot of the stuff the Bulldogs do. They had players in motion, which sort of kept us alert. And then sometimes when we committed, they threw the ball, which put us in two minds. Like, they played a pretty good game of rugby league for periods. They were starting to fatigue as well. They're not, we were still fit at the end of that game. We could have played another 80 minutes, I reckon, the Bulldogs. And we were coming to get them. And that, I really liked that we had the last say in that game as well, because, and we almost got another try right on the bell, didn't we? So I think there's some positives to take out of that performance. Definitely. So, what do you think about no Burton and no Bronson Xerri?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't fill me with confidence. I don't mind it right now. Same as I had the same opinion on the Stephen Crichton suspension. It comes at a good time. Give him a week off, coming into the finals. Burton, he had a bit of time off during the Origin period as 18th man, but heading into the finals, he can get himself sorted. Along with Bronson Xerri, who's been pretty consistently in the side for the whole season. Yeah, we do need to win. We're locked in the top 8, but getting a home final, Sharks versus Manly could go either way. But if we want to guarantee we get a home final, we got to win that game. And Cowboys are not not as red hot as I thought they would be coming into the finals. They struggled against Melbourne's second grade team on the weekend, so you don't know what you're going to get with them. But without Burton in the side, I definitely think we're going to lose a lot in attack. But Toby Sexton has improved so much this season, so I'm very happy with the way that he's going, getting that right side attack going. We'll see how he goes. The way that Sexton and Burton have been linking up on both sides of the field, I'm hoping that keeps happening, even if Sexton's the outside man on the left side attack as well. If Drew Hutchison can act as the half, just giving Sexton the ball in good ball, and then Sexton can run the show in our own end of the field. Burton is definitely going to be a big out, but I think we've still got the attack in us to score some points.
Yeah, nice summary, mate. I just wanted to give a shout out to Jacob Preston on the weekend. It was a fantastic game. Glad that he's starting to get back. Getting those injuries in the face, doesn't matter what anyone says, that those sort of injuries can cause a little bit of timidness or whatever. It's hard for players to come back full throttle, and they've managed him well. Bronson Xerri had another outstanding game, but the context of the game is that Manly basically said, you can play your left-hand side to get out of trouble. You have to go around us. And there was some halftime comments where they said that the coach wasn't happy from Manly that their defense was so condensed, because it obviously wasn't too happy that our left-hand side just continually made the meters for us because we couldn't make it through the middle. But in saying that, when they increased their spacing in that second half, they were nowhere near as effective. And without that 40-20, I don't think that 40-20, that's an Australian experienced half that turned the game on its head there. And we were a little bit down and they took advantage of it. But I thought the Fox did all right. He's there for a reason. But Jacob Preston, I'm really impressed with him. So let's get straight back into the Cowboys because we started talking about it. And, yeah, I was really maybe they thought they were going to have an easier game at home. And it was a pretty entertaining game against Melbourne. Yeah. They weren't as good as they thought. And I liked what you said about Sexton and Hutchison. I think the good thing about Hutchison played on the right edge for the first 10 rounds of the season. So he should be able to link on both sides. And him and Burton were also trying to link on both sides of the field at different times. And I felt Burton's got even better at that throughout the season. We flogged the Knights at Newcastle with a very understrength side with no Critter, no Burton, and Hutchison and Sexton in the halves, and I think we beat them 32-2 or something.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I definitely think that they can do it. Hopefully, the time out of the team from Hutchison, it's been a fair few games of footy since he's been in the first grade squad. So hopefully he can still have his combinations going. This game is going to depend massively on what the Cowboys do on the day. The Knights are pretty consistently on their line. They've got peaks, but they rarely fall too far. The Cowboys are boom and bust every second week. So there's plenty of points on this Cowboys side where we should be able to target. So if Drew Hutchison can turn up on the day and Toby Sexton's on, as like he has been the past few weeks or majority of the season since he come into the side, there's definitely points with Hutchison and Sexton in. Particularly at that, the Cowboys edges, the back rowers are definitely not defensive minded. Smaller bodies in the halves. Dearden's definitely solid as a defender, but if he's trying to help the blokes around him. He's still a smaller body, so I definitely think we can target those areas, and that's where our strike parts are as well. So, think Preston and Kickout could be pretty good targets for us to get around. Did and Clifford, Nanai, and Lukey.
Yep. Yeah, I agree, mate. Well, let's go through the sides if you want to run through them quickly, and then we'll get stuck into some of the questions that are coming through and get a full preview happening. But that's a good lead into it. So there you go. If you want to read them out, mate.
Yeah, sure thing. We got Connor Tracy at fullback, Gerald Skelton and Addo Carr on the wings, Kiraz and Captain Critter in the centres, Drew Hutchison at 5'8" with Toby Sexton at halfback. Starting front rowers are Sam Hughes and Max King with Reid Marnie at dummy half, Jacob Preston and Viliami Kickout in the back row with Jamin Semin at lock. On the bench, we got Bailey Hayward, Curtis Morin, Harry Hayes and Josh Curran. And our extended Blake Taff, Jack Underhill, Eli Clark, Lipboy Hopboy, and Jonathan Sewer. First time we've seen him on the extended in a while.
And well done to him too. Jack and Jonathan are both named for Jersey flag in our major semi against Penrith. The winner to go on and play the minor premiers, the Raiders, next week. The loser to be in sudden death from then on.
Another very good season from him.
Good side named by the Cowboys. They got Drinkwater, Felt, Holmes, Valia, Murray Talagi, who played quite well last week. Tom and Dearden, who's good every week. Jake Clifford. I think it was probably good management by their coach, who gets a lot of criticism, Todd Payton, to have this guy baking away in New South Wales Cup, or Queensland Cup, I should say. And when he brought him in, he went straight to work. A good kicking game and a good runner of the ball. And that's going to be a struggle for us. Jordan McLean, Reece Robson, and Jason Talmalolo is back. Lukey and Nanai, very good edge back rowers. And Ruben Cotter, we know that he is one of those workhorses that never stops. McIntyre's a big body. Same with Thomas McHaley, who comes into the side. Harrison Edwards, we know he's going to work tirelessly for them. And very good young talent. And Griffin Neem is a New Zealand representative front rower who played in that side, which beat us 30-0. So they have a star-studded lineup, but I'm still confident in our guys. So let's get on to it. Mark says Hutchison just needs to run. We'll go through some of the comments and then talk about those. We need to sign Sexton. He's been impressive with those grubbers close to the line for outside backs. 100% agree, Timmy. And even though some people may have said that he kicked one or two times too many in games, that is what it's all about, being a young half, to back yourself. There's always going to be times where you kick and your teammates aren't mentally with you or don't know or don't realise. It happens. You've got to keep backing yourself, and I really 100% love that he's doing that. And the variation that he's bringing with his running game, it's not long before Sexton splits them open. And based on what you were saying there, Jayden, I think when you were talking about if Drew links up the right way and gives Sexton that opportunity to run, that could be what we see him going through. Both Hutch and Sexton as halves have made so many half breaks. It's been phenomenal. And then when Hutch did make breaks, unfortunately, he threw a bad pass a couple of times, or he's rounded in pretty quickly. But they've got the ability, those guys, and that's exactly what we want to see from them. Mark agrees Sexton is great. Jamie says probably would have put Hayward at 6 and bring Underhill in. Look, Jamie, I don't mind. If we'd won last week, we would have wrapped up 5th position, and I would have been bringing in a young Jack Underhill for a run. The Hayward at 6, I don't know what you think about that, Jayden. But Jamie, I've seen this seen a lot around the socials. Bailey hasn't played halfback or in the halves for over 12 months. So he's been practicing to be a backup hooker and a lock. Reid Marnie actually, I think, went into the halves last week when Burton went off. and Hayward went to hooker. So Marnie's more likely to play in the halves before Hayward. And I haven't seen Hayward, except for a little grubber he did, which was fantastic, or a couple that he's done. He hasn't been kicking the footy either. So it's just not going to work for him to go in the halves at this point.
Yeah.
And look, the team they named, anyone who's been 99% of supporters, even though you might want other players to play, 99% of supporters would have known Serrato was going to name that side, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's coming into the end of the season, moving a Hayward who's been playing as a middle forward. If you change him to half for the last round of the year, you get him out of training in a different position. It's just setting him up for failure when the finals turn up. So I'm fine. In the Manly game, he jumped out to half, but only for about 2 sets. He defended half for about 2 sets, and then there was the swap. Marnie went out there, and I think there was periods where Kick Out and Xerri just defended next to each other, and they didn't have a half outside him. But I wouldn't be considering putting Hayward at 6. I don't mind it in an in-game situation if he's there to cover an injury. But this late in the season, the way that he's been training, playing as a middle forward, I wouldn't be, especially at his age, I wouldn't want to mess up him.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Defending on that edge for a couple of sets is all right, but that's where you got to make decisions. And this was sort of noted by the rugby league coach last week, is that Canterbury have been doing so well with their defence. If teams are able to get that roll on and put us under, he thinks the better teams are going to put us under pressure, and our edges have had it quite good due to what our middle's been able to do defensively, and where we've been able to put the ball out of yardage. So we've been able to keep teams restricted for long periods, but when they get on a roll, our edges have been quite solid because they haven't been really tested under 4 verse 3 and 5 verse 3, which is what good halves are able to do. And I think, sticking a player like Bailey Hayward out on the edge is you're going to see him throw an arm out and get busted down that sideline quite easily. Whereas Toby and Drew, while they'll miss a tackle and stuff, no doubt, they're going to be much more equipped to deal with that. That's their muscle memory all season, is defending on those edges. And that's going to, and they've both done a good job. And people said, Hutchison's made a lot of missed tackles. That's because he makes a lot. And Toby and Drew, our number 7s for this season have been targeted more than any other player in the comp. And that's probably every 7 in the game. So tough position. Mark said, I'm glad you brought this up, Mark, because I thought on the weekend we dismissed our right side. Preston, Carrez, Skelton thought we could have utilised that side better. In the first half, Skelton got criticised, but in saying that, for not doing enough work, it's where I don't know what your thoughts are, Jayden, but I felt that because we lost the middle, DCE was able to kick where he wanted, and they kicked it to the other side a lot. And they also, the way the game worked, that's where we attacked most of the game and we kept going to where we were making the meters and making the yardage. They opened the door for us there. So it's sort of the context of the game, and it was a lot more even in that second half. They got a lot more runs and a lot more meters in that second half because as I said, as their defensive line was less condensed, that enabled us to play a more balanced game with the ball.
I don't think Skelton had his best game, but I don't think it was on the attacking side of the ball. It was just defensive mistakes. We've seen Skelton and Kiraz a lot lower in their run meters than we're used to seeing, but that was a game flow thing. Our left side was getting through plenty of work, and it was working for us, and they were kicking the ball to that side of the field. It's just sort of how the game went, that our right side center and winger didn't get as involved, but I don't think that's a whole lot on them.
Mark believes Hay would be better at lock than the fish. I Hayward was the lock. So I think Salmon is a much better defender for that first period of the game, and we're getting dominated. If we put Hayward there, I'd rather keep Hayward fresh because he has a lot more. He's another one who's really backed himself a few times and been real strategic with his running game. Apart from one game where he took about 20 hit ups and just kept playing the ball quick for no real yardage. He's been really selective with his runs, and he's nearly made those breaks. Like that try that he scored that they took off him against the Cowboys, for example, that was a try, but we would have won the match and be already assured of a fifth spot. That's what it comes down to, that sort of stuff sometimes, but you can't put it down to one moment. But
if you see Hayward's stats, if you see Hayward's stats, most weeks it's 6 runs for 20, 30, 40 meters. But he's really good in the late stages of the game. He's dishing for most of the time. He's just passing, going half to half. And then in the late stages of the game, he comes off his right, left foot, takes the line on, and can catch teams off guard, as he did in that Cowboys game. Didn't work out, but showed what he could do.
Yeah, he's been a really good player. A lot of people have issues with Salmon. They moved him to I think his utility value is another one that's gone against him. But I felt that his passing game is, it can be really, really good. It's not Kurt Mann level, but it can be right up there. And he also, this went unmissed, but sometimes the runs that he's taking, and a lot of the time he's only making 5 meters. He generally gets away a quick play the ball. And, we score a try. Jacob Preston scores that try down the right edge based off a run by Jamin Salmon the play before. These things go missed. People don't notice that a lot of the time. Defensively, though, I'd rather him there at the start than Bailey, because I think we really need Bailey Hayward in the latter part of the first and second half. I really do.
Yeah. I think Salmon as your opening 20 lock is definitely the way to go. The way that we've gone pretty well the entire season is we grind it out for 60 minutes, and then that last 20 minutes is when we look to score all our points. So if we rotate Salmon and Hayward for the early parts and then get Hayward going in that last 20, that's the game plan that we've been working with Mann and Hayward, and it's definitely what we're going to do going into the finals.
Yeah. G'day, Jai. Welcome to the podcast, Jai. Jai says, I feel that the doggies needed that wake-up call just before the finals, and I believe we will push pretty deep in the finals this year. Well, I'm right with you, Jai. I hope you're true about that. I hope you're 100% right. Mark says this weekend against the Cowboys will be critical. If we lose, we bow out in week 1. If we win, we go to a preliminary. Well, that's a pretty... 2014, Mark, we lost to the Titans, I'm pretty sure, or drew with them in the last round. Was that the time when Josh Reynolds did the weird thing at halftime, threw the ball over or something?
Through the forward pass.
And then we went on and ambushed 3 sides on the way to the South Sydney show, which is all about South Sydney.
Yeah.
But it's a new competition. No matter what happens in this game, obviously you don't want to see us capitulate. You don't want to see us fall apart and lose confidence. But if we lose this game and the effort's there and stuff, bringing a fresher Matt Burton back, Bronson Cherry's had his niggles all year, comes back into that squad. Carraz back on the wing. They'll be confident whether they have to play in, they'll be confident to go to Brookvale and beat Manly and Brookvale. Tom Trbojevic is never the same player when he's carrying an injury. You saw that once he sort of copped that shin hit, he wasn't the same player. in that game. He basically did nothing. He was just standing there and watching and seeing and probably waiting for a chance to inject himself. But, yeah, they just sort of went without him for about 15 minutes, which was probably another reason we come back into it as well. They're a much more confident outfit with Tom Trbojevic on the field. But when he's not running full pelt into everything he does, it's very obvious with Tom. I think they'd be better going without him, to be honest. What's your thoughts on that, Jayden? Because Mark's made a pretty tough statement there. If we lose, we're gone. If we win, we can go
Yeah,
deep.
no, I wouldn't say take it to those extremes. Getting a win will definitely be good for us. I'm very confident that we can beat any of those teams that are fighting for the 8th spot. It looks like Dolphins or Knights is the matchup that's going to get it. But we, as I talked about earlier, we only needed a couple more things to go our way in that Manly game. Either side of halftime, we would have been well in the mix. So I definitely think we can compete against them as well. Not that it'll happen, but we're versing the Cowboys this week. I'm pretty confident that we can compete against any team in the top 8, any team in the comp. So no, I definitely don't think if we lose, then the season's done. I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to keep up with anyone that we've got to take on.
So Sutton's the ref this week, which is never good because, I don't mind when Sutton refs us against St. George because he hates St. George more than he hates the Bulldogs, being a South Sydney tragic. It's about who he hates the most. I swear the stats, when Mark says the stats don't lie, they don't lie with that. Tim says James Graham was filthy at grub for doing that. He was. We were never in the Manly game. Look, it felt pretty hopeless. It felt like from the first tackle when you see us 3 or 4 hit-ups and we're still on the 20, 25 metre line, then we got a penalty. I was worried then. And you had that worrying feeling. But what I saw in that second half to start it showed me that they're able to reset even at that point, even at half-time, and come out and go, you know what, we can do something here. It took a real class act. Losing Burton out of that left-hand edge, the way it happened, and, we don't concede that try. I think we're a lot closer. I thought we were in it. I thought we kept fighting, and that was the sign that I love the most. They never gave up. They kept trying to win the match, and it probably cost us some points as well. Jai says, who do we reckon is winning the Grandy this year, fellas? Our honest opinion. Who's going to win the grand final, Jayden?
Oh, well, us, obviously.
Well done, buddy. Good answer.
Right now, it looks like the team to beat's going to be Melbourne. The way that the Roosters have fallen apart this week, just about lost their spine. I don't think they'll be firing too hard coming into finals. Penrith will be relying on how Cleary looks when he gets back into the team. They'll still be a good team, but yep. I don't see him winning a premiership without Cleary on the side. Sharks and Cowboys are too hot and cold. I don't think they've got 4 weeks of good footy in them. And then, unlikely that Manly can. They can. If Manly can get hot, they've got it in them. And then I don't expect much from Dolphins or Knights from 8th position. So Melbourne's definitely the hot favourite going into the finals healthy. I don't think the Pappenhausen news will be too much. He should come back into the side pretty good. But, I think they're definitely the team to beat. And whether it's bias or not, I think we can definitely keep up with every other team. Everyone else is dealing with problems. We should be coming into the finals in pretty good form and healthy. So only Kurt Mann's just about our only player that's not going to be in the side, and he's a big loss. But we're in a pretty good shape heading into the finals, where a few other teams have definitely lost their way heading into the final series.
Yeah, hard to disagree with much of that. I think Melbourne, the fact that they played most of the season missing 2 spine players on average, with a forward pack that I have never rated this year, and didn't rate last year. But obviously, another season under its belt. Sean Bloor was a good acquisition, I should say. Yeah, they definitely have to be the team to beat. The way they play the game as well suits with the way things are happening. They can play a game where they keep the ball in play, and they're very good at adapting to whatever is thrown at them. They're never out of it. Every game they've played this year, they've had a very similar season. The way that, Canterbury have put away a few teams, but we've had a lot of close games as well, win and loss, whereas Melbourne won most of those games, including against us. So they've got to be the favourite. I think Penrith have that youth, probably two young players too many in their side, but at the same time, that experienced core that they've got is even more experienced, which I just don't think are quite as good. But you'd expect James Fisher-Harris and Moses Leota are going to have a lot to say about this final series as well. The Roosters, I can't see them. What was that?
With Penrith, the way that the past few years they've had the young players come through, like Critter and Tago, they're just not performing this year as they have the past few years when they've come through. Tago's not in very good form. Taruva's in and out of first grade. Alamotti hasn't secured a spot at all. Even, Casey McLean's been there and he's not firing. He's definitely showing potential. They all have very good moments. But, this year it's just not clicking as well as it has the past few years where they have their juniors come through and just on fire as soon as they get into first grade. It's just not the same this year, it doesn't seem.
Yeah, I think they lost a genuine star from their side, and we sort of didn't realise it. I didn't really realise it until Origin last year, when I was more focused on this guy's defence in Stephen Crichton. But then in that grand final, those 3 moments that he had, which people have touched on and know that happened, but Cleary's got all the accolades. Crichton won them that game as much as Nathan Cleary did, in my opinion. And that got me excited. And it is Luai, Toto and all that are all going to do their thing. The lock forward, Isaiah, they're all going to do their work. Mitch Kenny's a very underrated player in that side. But do they have that extra star to get them over the line to have some of those moments? Like, to win that game against Brisbane, they needed like 6 or 7 moments, grand final moments, to actually win it. Like, it's quite phenomenal for that to happen. Without Critter there, some of those moments don't happen. And I think we'll see Critter have some moments for the Bulldogs that are very well, like, he's a player who can turn it on. That used to be his criticism too, that he'd go in and out. But he's a much more of a rounded 80-minute player now. And he might not be doing all the work in one period of the game, but he's actually analysing what's going on, working things out, talking to the boys. Yeah, I get more and more impressed the more I see him, which is probably because I'm a biased Bulldog. But
he's a big moment player.
Jayden. What was that, mate?
He's a big moment player, but he's got a massive flaw to his game. Like, he never switches off. His defense is incredible. He does enough work in the get-out sets, and then every time he gets the ball in attacking area, he looks dangerous. So, with the peak moments that he has and the very high floor, he's a very, very special player. And he's 23 years old, 24 years old. He's still got so much improving to do.
He'll never play for another club. This will be it. Many would have said that about him being at Penrith, but and I hope that doesn't hamstring us either, because his next contract's going to be worth probably about 500 grand more, unfortunately. Hopefully not. But Michael's here. He's hope you did well in your HSC, buddy. He's our statistician. He said he was at the game last Friday, and yes, we did lose for the first time at home and for the first time we conceded 30 points all season. He still saw effort from the boys, which is all he wants to see. And he's like, we were flat, and that's okay. We bounce back this week, and I will still support this team, win, lose, or draw. Here, we're all there with you, Michael. Marks wants to adopt Mike. Welcome, chatting with animals. So there's the bunch of animals right there. Oh, who's that? That looks like who's that? That looks like my mate Jason, a Broncos supporter. Leanne and Halcyon and the sorry, I always forget their names. They got the best names, these kids. That's definitely my mate. G'day, how are you, champions? I played a bit of live to start the YouTube channel too, guys. I hope that live concert was awesome. Sorry, when you see a couple of friends or a picture of your friends, actual like real life people that you have known your whole life and love. You know? So thank you so much. Timmy says, I felt it would be 1-12, and the fact we compared a lot better in the second half is pleasing. Feel like Walker, mic's on. You know that, Chris Walker? Walker's on. 2004 Grand Final, Origin. Walker's on. Well, Mike's on. Roosters versus Bulldogs Grand Final. We win at 16-12 in Keary's last game like Fittler in 2004. I think the only difference there, Timmy, is that Xerri, although he's won, I think, 3 premierships at 2 different clubs, won't be considered an immortal or Hall of Famer, I don't think. He might, but I don't think he will. But I actually think it's going to potentially be a Canterbury versus Penrith Grand Final. If it's happening, if that stuff's actually happening, I think that's what's going to happen. Yeah, I think we're going to play the team that is on a 4-peat, which was Parramatta back in 1984. This year it's Penrith, and we could still play the Penrith. Oh, you're the 900th subscriber. Thank you so much. Well, you win. You haven't won much this year, Jason, have you? Lost the Origin, the Broncos, poor Broncos, and I don't know. I think the Broncos will bounce back next year. Just got a feeling. Thanks for joining up, brother. Probably not even me, mate. Nah, I swear that's it. Xanthi and Halcyon and the like. There you go. And Leanne and Jason. That's definitely them. My eyes are getting older, so if it's not you, I'm sorry, but that little photo, I swear that's you. All right. Tim says we play Penrith in the preliminary final and win a close game 20-12. But it's going to be identical to 2004, is it, Timmy?
I'll take it.
Now, Jai's got some info for us. Not doggies related, but if you boys were bellyache, would you guys go with Wishart or Munster? I know the name Munster carries a lot of weight, but I feel Wishart has been 20 times better this year. What's your thoughts there, Jayden?
Oh, you definitely go Munster, without a doubt. Even taking away the players, what Wishart offers off the bench in his utility value, and Munster's, he can play other positions. He can play fullback very well, but he's an out-and-out 5'8". The way that they've been using Wishart as a rotational 9, as a middle forward, coverage for the outside backs, he has been incredible this year. But yeah, definitely be starting Munster. He's ultimate X factor, can win a game by himself on his day, and then you can still get the best out of Wishart from any other position on the field. Yeah, they're very lucky to have both, but yeah, Munster's definitely the way to go in the starting 6, and then use Wishart across the field.
I think Wishart would have to go in as they should make a utility of the year or something. He'd be right up there. I think, or as the most improved player in the game, he goes pretty close to it. He's all effort. Look, Munster's a big game player, and his ability to skip across the line and players just to be mesmerised and hang off him and just to turn on a dime. I think that the way he plays, though, I'm not sure if he's ever going to sort of, with that groin injury that he had, is he going to have that confidence to do all that sort of stuff? Break tackles, just pull away from tackles, keep fighting. He's a very good player, Cameron Munster. But yeah, I don't know, mate. Wishart is one of those players I think for Melbourne, they say he's in our best 17 every week now, sort of thing. And he's just as important to them potentially as Munster. So it's a hard one.
I think
I'm sort of sitting on the fence with that. I think you just go with Munster because he's your leader. He's your 5'8". I think you know that he's proven in the big games. Hey?
Wishart's playing with so much confidence that he doesn't need a position on the field right now. Like, he's in such good form that he can be put anywhere and he's going to perform.
Yeah, well, they could stick him in if they had they could move him out into the centres, and if someone was struggling out there and they conceded a couple of tries, they could move him out there and he'd probably nail his opponent and put a try on him. Like, he's just that type of player. It reminds me a bit of that Sean Berrigan back for the Broncos, who we had another grand final sewn up, and he put us to sleep in the second half. Scored a length of the field try. And in the grand final against Melbourne, I think he started at hooker, but in defence he was defending at centre, and Greg Inglis couldn't get past him. That's going back a couple of years after the Doggies won the grand final. Anyone but Penrith, please. You want the Doggies to win, Jason? Come on. Go for those Doggies. You're on the wrong podcast, Jai. Timmy says, watching him in the Canberra game, he set up a try for Josh Adokar. He swung both sides of the field. He was outstanding. Who was that? Was that Critter, Timmy? Probably.
I'm thinking right. Sexton. I can't remember it.
I'll tell you what. This Cowboys side, let's have a look at it. Let's get back to this. I think this game is important in many ways. If the Cowboys win, they secure a home final either against the Knights or the Dolphins. If the Knights or Dolphins draw, the winner of the Dragons and Raiders game will make the 8. And I can tell you now, no team wants to play the Raiders in the semi-finals because they're that type of team. And when that side gets those youngsters cranking, I reckon they've got some of the best youngsters in the NRL already starting to play first grade, and they've got a few more coming, and they've already got a heap in their system. They're going to be a real premiership threat over the next, I think them and Canterbury are going to be right up there. And I also think the Broncos, what's coming through their system. Penrith will remain because their system's going to take them a long way. Storm will remain, Roosters will remain, but and then you got to look at teams like Wests. If they were to get their act together with their juniors, they could be anything as well. But we haven't seen that happen for a long time, have we? Hey, Mickey. Yes, it is you. Bloody good show, mate. One of my best mates. It was 16-13 actually in the 2004 grand final. Tim, you got it wrong, mate. Michael's pulled you. He's the David Middleton of our show. He'll set you in the right direction. Scan Cunt, welcome back, brother or sister. I'm pretty sure you're a bloke on the Scan Cunt, but 2004 grand final was actually 13-16, best night of my life. Yes, it's probably Watching Mick Crocker knock that ball on was the best 5 seconds of my life too, with the Andrew Ryan type tackle. I'm good at creating 5-second moments, though. All right, Michael, I highly doubt Roosters make the grand final now. Yeah, what's your thoughts on the Roosters there, Jayden? What do you think they can do any damage losing?
I think they're good enough to compete still. They've got enough quality players across the board, but I don't think they've got premiership they would have premiership aspirations, but I don't think they'll be able to go all the way without Sam Walker. Brendan Smith is a strange one, but on his day, he's one of the best nines in the comp. Running the ball, he is probably the best nine in the comp, close to the try line. But yeah, I don't think they've got a grand final glory in their future for 2024.
Me either. I'm putting a line through them, but they're good enough to make it. But we've seen what's happened with them. You know, you've got to have some form against those better sides lead into a grand final. Like, you've got to be at least close. Like, I go through the history and I watch teams like Newcastle, like Manly, 20 points better than them, then 10 points, and then 4 points better than them, and then, you know, just had that little bit on them, and then they get to the grand final and the Knights get them on the day. It's going back a long way to 97, but you just see that Canterbury and the Roosters in 2004, each team put 30 on the other without much of a scoreline, 30-point wins for each side throughout the season. And then they get to the grand final, and it's a real arm wrestle made out of moments. And yeah, I've just seen it too. Teams have to be close, and the Roosters haven't been close to Penrith. They've competed in games over the last few years for maybe 60 minutes and then been blown away. Melbourne, they've got nowhere near them when they had their full strength side on the park. I don't know what it is with them in those good sides, but they look good against us in that second game in the wet at Gosford. They look like they were a step above us in that game, even though we competed hard.
They were very dominant in that game, but that also wasn't our real team. Wasn't close to the team that we played with now. Burton playing in the centers, and
exactly
in a one-off game, Burton he needs a lot of work to be brought into the game if he's at center. He's developed a lot that he can get himself into the game in the halves, but at center he needs a pretty dominant half inside him to get him involved. And as our most dominant attacking weapon, then him at center, he needs someone to get him the ball, but that's not where we want him, so he will be playing at 5'8". From now on.
We've got some funny stuff from Michael. The last time, reasons why Canterbury will win the comp in 2024. The last time a player aged over 30 scored 20-plus tries in a season, the Bulldogs won the comp. That was in 1988. In 2024, Kyle Felt, aged 32, has scored 20 tries. That's a bloody good one, that. The last time the Broncos trailed 16-12 at halftime at Suncorp Stadium and went on to win, the Bulldogs won the comp. In 2024, the Broncos trailed 16-12 at halftime at Suncorp Stadium and went on to win. And that would have been against Para the other week. I want to know about Jayden. What's your story, young man? Well, Mark, he talked about his story at the start of the podcast, and there's no excuse for being late, mate. So you're going to have to go back and watch. Did you finish talking about yourself, Jayden, at the start?
I don't know. I did an intro, said some stuff.
Josh,
I don't know if anyone wants to ask any questions, feel free.
And look, guys, I'll post a link up when I do this. I've got it on all Things Bulldogs Facebook page. Link to Jayden's podcast. So go and listen to it. They're only short and sweet, 12, 15, 20 minutes. Not big waffling thoughts like mine. Still quite in depth. Gets through a lot. Real pleasure to listen to. So if you want to know more about Jayden, and how he analyses the Bulldogs, jump on that podcast for sure. Wishart reminds me of Kurt Gidley, Mr. Fix-It. I think he might be better than Kurt too. Mike's killing it as usual. We love you, Mike. Get this guy on the podcast, Mick. Well, he's here every week. Haha, you're not mistaken. I'm glad you come on, Jace. Made me not. Timmy was talking about Critter. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, subscribe, and share, they say. Who do we think is going to be the winner of the Spoon Bowl, fellas? Tigers coming off 2 points, 2 straight. Eels coming off a win where they scored a lot of points, but also leaked 30 points in the last 10 minutes. 30 points in 10 minutes and still won the game.
Unbelievable.
I think Parramatta, I think Trent Barrett was right. If the games were 60 minutes this year, they'd be making the top 8. Sort of like Canterbury under Trent Barrett. In 2022, the first 10 games, we were in a lot of matches at the 60-point minute. But anyway, I think Parramatta I think they'll win. I think they'll beat the Tigers and they'll get their third wooden spoon. I think West's where's it being played at? Is it at CommBank or
see that? That's Campbelltown.
Oh, Campbelltown. Ooh. Campbelltown's West never used to be able to win there, but they've been doing all right there and getting sellouts. I reckon it's going to be a good crowd.
Yeah, they've been doing real good in those all of the smaller stadiums. In the past couple of years. Even when they're going bad, they play well there.
Michael reckons, I only think the Roosters can make it because they already have a terrible record against the Panthers and Storm with their full-strength side. Without Walker and even Smith, it will be challenging. But I could be wrong. James Mahoney getting sacked by the Cowboys ends them. James Maloney, not Mahoney.
Maloney. Yeah, no, the trainer.
Like, who's Mahoney? Yeah, look, Mahoney. On the piss, drink driving. See you later, mate. You fucked your coaching career.
Yeah, not good.
Dickhead. But, sometimes we make stupid decisions when we're drunk. Hopefully he learns from it. I've got to disagree here. Tigers will be fresh off a bye and confident from 2 straight. What do you reckon the score will be, Mark? Sorry, Jayden. I'll try to be better. Magic is a champion. Bloody oath he is, Tim.
Definitely.
Hey, guys, good to see you again. Hope you've all been well. How do you think we'll go without Burton? His kicking game gets us out of a lot of trouble. Well, let's talk about that because that's probably the missing element.
Yep.
You go first, Jayden. How are we going to go with Toby and Drew at kicking for us with the help of Reid Marnie, who probably want to do more kicking, which I'm not sure.
When Drew Hutchison's been in the side, kicking has definitely not been a big part of his game. Sexton's taken over a lot of the long kicking game as well the past few weeks. Our best duo is Burton kicking the long balls and Sexton taking control inside the 20, but Sexton has done a lot more of the long kicking game. It looks like they use Burton as a bit of a decoy as well, coming out of our own end for the kicking game. So I know that Sexton has the ability. Marnie out of dummy half has got a very good kicking game for a dummy half. We have to get out of our own 30 in this game for us to stay in the mix. We won't have Burton kicking it from our own 20 to their 20. But Sexton does have a good directional kicking game. We can pin him in the corners, and we have a very good kick chase, especially our left edge. Kickout has been an incredible kick chaser, taking out the back 3 every single week. Slight tangent, but a lot of people getting upset about Kickout's missed tackles. If you actually pay attention, they do not matter at all. He misses tackles when he puts a shot on the fullback, and every single time they hit the deck and they don't make any more meters. So just had to throw that in there. But Sexton can definitely take control of the long kicking game. if Drew Hutchison can have a bit of a part, take a bit of pressure off him, that'll be good. But yeah, I definitely trust Sexton and Marnie to do it as long as we get out of our own 30. But yeah, we should be able to cover it.
Toby's probably got he'd be in the top 5 for kickers with distance anyway. He was putting them on the 10-meter line without a problem from inside his 40, just like Burton. So he can do it. He doesn't get the height, and you don't get the same amount of time that you get from a Burton kick, but he's got the distance. So that's where he'll continue to evolve. Mitch Moses was similar. Could always kick long, but couldn't kick with the height and get it to float as long. Whereas now he does that really well. Like, you've got Nathan Cleary, you've got Moses, you've got Burton. There's a couple of others, but Adam Reynolds is another one that's really good. And then you've got Toby Sexton's right up there. Oh, and the other one's Jamal Fogarty. He's fantastic with his kicks. Long,
very underrated Fogarty.
Yeah. And I actually had a big crack at Braith last year when he went to town on Jamal Fogarty, which I thought was ridiculous. This guy was a late bloomer and only had 2 or 3 seasons in the top grade. These halves take a while. So
yeah,
I think they've managed Toby well. I think what the Cowboys have done with young Jake Clifford is another one. But it's a big point. The kicking game is going to be so important for our boys. They've got to nail it, but it's about how we get into position for them to kick. If they're able to pressure us like they were against Manly, and if it's going to come down to our kick chase, if our guys are unable to pressure the Cowboys, that's going to make it a lot harder. So it all starts in the engine room, as far as I'm concerned. And it's intriguing. I think the Cowboys are going to go there with the mindset to play some football. I think if the Cowboys go there with the mindset to grind with the Bulldogs, they'll get beaten. I think if they go there with the element of a bit of surprise and a bit of attack, we could be in for a bit of trouble as far as the scoreboard goes.
I don't think Cowboys look to get into the grind very often. They'll be looking to score early and regularly, throwing everything that they've got.
And then they tend to concede a lot as well. But it's going to come down to possession as well. We've got to hold the ball. And, they say it every game. Like, time in possession, we're number 1 in the comp. Completions, we're about number 14 or something, which is all right. Teams can win comps having low completion rates of 78%, 77%. It means that you're throwing stuff at the opposition. But we're a team that's created a lot of chances, but also butchered a lot as well. So we're going to have to execute. I think Critter coming back's huge for us. I think we'll see a much better game from Carraz and Skelton. But yet again, if our middle doesn't dominate, like the way, isn't able to have some sort of parity there, and if we're backtracking through that middle, Skelton and Carraz are going to be facing a huge acid test, like they did last week, and that's where we're going to be. That's where we're weak. Those lads in those positions are probably less equipped to deal with than what the Fox and Critter are going to be much better suited to defending on that left edge, I believe. And Viliami Kikau on that left edge is probably the reason why statistically it's been the best defensive edge in the comp, because of him.
Yeah,
he's the one that scares opposition teams.
Puts so much pressure on the other team's halves.
Yeah, they're like, oh, do I want to cop that hit? Kafusi's good at that as well. Yeah, but he just shrinks it up so much because he works so hard from the inside out. It's so underestimated.
Yeah, he's such a big body, but he is so athletic and so nimble on his feet.
Yeah. And I think he wants to win. He loves to win. Pete says, evening, gentlemen. Just made it on. Behave, O'Connell. Welcome, Pete. Glad to see you on, buddy. Timmy says, that's Reed's brother, James Mahoney. All right, so where's it won and lost, Jayden? Where do we beat the Cowboys?
You've just got to slow them down, which is the best part of our game as well. This Cowboys team wants to score points. So they're not scared to give up points. They just want to score more points than you. So definitely, trying to limit them as much as possible. Scott Drinkwater is a massive boom or bust type of player. You just got to try to slow him down if you can get him out of the game. If you get a few shots on him, then he is someone that you can rule out of a game early. And then, this Cowboys team has plenty of weak spots across the park. Defensively, Val Holmes is a very, very good center. This has not been his year defensively. Both of their back rowers, I definitely think you can take advantage of. Especially Nenai has a lot of defensive deficiencies. He's on the right side with Clifford. So Clifford, not an experienced first grader this season. He's only got a handful of games in the top grade. So I think that's definitely a spot where we should be able to take advantage of him. So they're on their right edge. So kick out going at those two is very good spot for us. They have a good forward pack. They have size. They have athleticism in the middle. Jason Tamalolo coming towards the end of his career, but he's still very explosive in short stints. Ruben Cotter, a different style of front rower in the lock jersey, but a massive motor, goes all day. If we can slow him down in the middle, then I definitely think we'll be in the mix. I'm very confident in our get out sets as always, with Kira Skelton, the way that Addo Carr's improved. We don't have Bronson Cherry, who's been very good in the get out set so far this season. Curious what they'll do with Critter and Carraz, if they leave Critter on that right center spot or if they float around. Jacob Carraz has played on the left, but he's very much a right side dominant player. So he is the one that's playing out of position. So I could see them put him on the left. Definitely something to look out for there. But with Critter back, I'm pretty confident that we should be able to limit him. And then, there's definitely plenty of spots on the field where we can take advantage of him.
Beautiful rundown, mate. Well, really well done. I can't add too much to that, to be honest. I pretty much agree. I think you've named the weaknesses in their side well defensively. It's just one of those things that our teamwork's going to take us a long way. The courage and heart we show, our fitness, some of those sort of more holistic things, as they talk about above the shoulders, I think we're in a better position for that. I think we will see Gerald have a big night, but they've got competitors in their side, man, and that takes them a long way. You look at the likes of Tom Dearden, Talangi, Felt, Holmes, Tamalolo, and Cotter. They're their players that just work. I think there's a song, isn't it? Anyway.
Should be there'll be a good battle on that. Our right, their left, Skelton and Talangi. A couple of very big bodies out on the wing, so if they can go up against each other, should be pretty fun.
Talangi's one that I felt in Origin games. He's one that we've targeted when he's played Origin, and he's struggled a bit. I think we want to probably. They're big boys. Kyle Feld, I think he's leaving the club at the end of the season, so he'll be wanting to go out on a big note. It's an intriguing battle. If Burton and Xerri are playing in this match, I'm 100% confident we're going to go on with a win. If we had Kurt Mann, even more so. I don't think we'll see any elevation of any players into the side. If it will, it may be a late one, maybe for the Fox. They like to keep the Fox in the side as long as they can because it puts bums on seats.
He's one that I wouldn't have been upset at if they rested. I don't think he needs the run. I think it would have been a good idea, but if he's fit, then even last week in the Manly game, when he scored the try, I think it was, he was a bit tender after that. So hopefully for this one, but I definitely wouldn't mind if he got rested.
If he gets rested, I'm not sure if they bring in Blake Taff or Eli Clark.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. I think it would have to be Eli Clark. Like Blake Taff is like the different types of fullbacks halves, or fullbacks outside backs, and he's not much of an outside back. And Eli Clark's been very much in the mix the past few weeks. A couple of 18 man. I'd like to see him. It would have been good if we had the extra win and we could have had a take it easy game to see some of our young guys come in. But I think he would be the one if they rested him. But I'm not sure what they'll do.
If we've got an injury in the forwards, they might bring Jack Underhill in to give him that game, knowing they've got another bite of the cherry in Jersey Flegg. And then Hopboy would be, I think, the standby after that for the finals. Blake's the halves cover. If Marnie goes down at training, you might find Blake come into the side, and because Hayward would be playing hooker.
Yeah,
if that was the case.
Yeah, I fully expect Taff to be the 18th man. That'll stick.
Yep, for sure, 100%. Yeah, it seems pretty cut and dry what they're going to do. So we've got Jared Sutton and Grant Atkins is the bunker official. Two of the biggest cocks in the game. Oh, sorry, but honestly, refs, I shouldn't say it like that, but I'm a fan too, and I don't like refs. But at the same time, we need young kids to become refs and to develop into refs. So maybe I should take those comments back.
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of young refs come through and hold on to a spot consistently. So we're sort of stuck with what we've got at the moment.
So your mate Jason's gone to bed. Night, brother. Mark, I love Webber. Behaving is a stretch. Sorry for the horrible spelling. I've been in the beers tonight. Get on the beers, brother. Well done. Ready to kick a few 40-20s. Well, he hasn't kicked one this year, Tim. He's been close. So maybe he gets one when it matters. I think the most important thing for Reid is just to kick for strategy and not to necessarily – because when he goes for those big surprise plays, I think sometimes I've been of the opinion that, we needed to take another hit up then. We needed to grind for another set. But anyway, because sometimes it's just, we've nearly got the grind back and we're going all right, and then he does this surprise play and it doesn't always work out. But there's been other times where he's just kicked strategically, place the ball on the ground behind the winger and fullback, and then we've been up there and pinned them in their own area and asserted dominance, which is what you want.
I agree. I like his controlled kicking game and a sets 4th, 5th tackle when he's trying to pin it, not when he's going for the hero play. I definitely think that's a better part of his game when he's kicking for that kind of style.
But I think there will be a play where he'll have that opportunity to get a 40-20 and we'll get it. And it'll be, if the Dogs are going to do anything, we're going to see an offload in the line. We're going to see something that magical from some of our players that we don't expect. Kickout's been ordinary for a couple of weeks. He needs to be better. If he does, we win in easily. Mark, you're trying to make us go for 2 hours, mate. Ordinary.
No, I disagree.
Far from ordinary. Look, I'll tell you one thing that I haven't been happy with Billy Army is the last 5 weeks he's thrown a ball out on that edge, which has been probably not the right play. And 4 of those 5 times is counted as an error against us. So only one of the times it's come off, but it was still ineffective after what happened after that. Been saying that he does so much work off the ball, so much with his game that's just consistent every week. He's not had a bad game. He's not there just to score tries.
No.
They use him for inside balls. They use him as a decoy. That's what he's there for. And Preston does the same thing. I've liked the way they've used Preston though, and he remains a huge asset for us. And seeing Preston score off the hip from the halfback, it's happened a couple of times this year. And plus the way he's broken the line, that's just phenomenal. All kudos to him, but doesn't mean that Kikau's been ordinary. That like where he picked out Tavita Pangai Jr. against the Dolphins, the break he made to put on the try the week before. Yes, he's had a couple of errors in the game. That's been ordinary, but this is what I mean. People see 5 minutes of something wrong and they write off the player for the whole bloody thing, It's an 80-minute game and he plays 80 minutes.
Has bad moments, bad errors. He does not have bad games.
Yeah.
He is, the work he does off the ball, I talked about earlier, his kick chase efforts, that sets up our sets more than anything else. Like, we got Burton's kicking game, Sexton's kicking game, but Kikau's kick chase is incredible.
Yeah. I never get off. That's the thing. I never come off a game and look at the individual stats and go, oh, Kikau was bad. I just look at what they did throughout the game with and without the ball, because that's where my spectrum is now. It's not just on the Hollywood moments, and it's so much more entertaining when you just get an enjoyment out of watching Bailey Hayward push up beside another player 15 times in a match, knowing that, he's doing that and knowing that the coach is recognizing him for it and he's still doing it. And he's going to keep pushing up and he's going to and someone's going to throw him a ball, and maybe it is Kikau who gives him that ball and he's going to go through and score a try or whatever else. Seeing Curran do that, seeing Jamin Salmon does it a lot, seeing Preston do it. Even our wingers and our centers are doing it. We're the number one support team in the comp now. We've been last in that stat for years.
Yeah.
Which shows you. Dogs 85, Cowgirls 0. No dramas, Dave from WA.
Take that.
Who needs to go to the left this weekend? Hayward starts, Salmon on the bench. So Mark, I think Mark's one of these people, he just says things to piss me off. Just to keep me talking. I don't know if you honestly believe that. So you want Hayward to start? I know he's done it for us. They've used him a couple of times to do that, and it's good to have some variation. But Hayward starting, who gives us more impact off the bench, Hayward or Salmon? It's like Curran starting at certain times has been great for us, but he's so much better when he can come on when there's a little bit of heat out of the game. So much
better. Curran and King have very similar games, but Curran has more ball playing ability, offloading skills. So, just different styles of player. It's not about who's the better player starts and the next player starts on the bench. It's particular roles. Hayward's a smaller body. He can't, he can. He's defended very well. I'm surprised at how well he has defended this season. But he's a smaller body in the middle of the field, and he's got a great passing game. So you want to utilize that when the other team's just tired, and towards the back end of the game.
I just think Jamin will be better for the run. He copped that face injury as well. So, and there was a couple of games this year where without Jayden, without Jamin Salmon, we didn't get on top. He nearly got a try last week as well with that element of surprise. where he cuts back in off the right foot. He's one that they don't expect to be the one that, he's not one that they're watching heavily, and that can be an asset for us. But look, Bailey Hayward is a really good kid, and we've talked about him a lot this season. He has fixed his defensive game up, but his line speed as well helps when we've got a tired forward pack, because he's able to come out and put pressure on and sort of give time for our other forwards to come in second and third. He interchanges really well with the other defenders out there. So you'll see, like when Curran and Hayward are on together, it's 1 for 1 for 1 for 1. He interacts really well with Reid Marnie as well. He fills a lot of the gaps in that defensive line. He's a real asset to us. But whether he's coming off the bench, I think is so much more important for us that he comes off the bench. Starting him negates a lot of his assets, which is his speed. And you also want him there to take a bit of pressure off Reid Marnie around dummy half and stuff. And he does come in and do a bit of that.
He's got great service. He's got a very good passing game.
Yeah. But if you get him but as we saw in the trial where he played a full half at hooker, and then they brought Marnie off, we lost that trial in the last second against Sharks because Hayward got tired. I know it was back in the trial, threw a chonky pass. That's what you get if you start him. You're going to get mistakes and stuff because he's not playing that role. Whereas Marnie needs that little bit of a break. And Marnie can stay on there and keep turning up in defence, but Hayward gives him a break sometimes.
Yeah.
Very important to us. Skankhead Sutton, game's over already. As a former referee in the Penrith District, Sutton has plenty to answer for. So Mark actually used to be a referee, if people didn't realise. Against the Bulldogs, the stats don't lie. He is a South supporter in the stats, according to the stats. He's given them more penalties than any other team. And they're second in victories other than any other side outside of the Melbourne Storm, who have won more games under Sutton than anyone else. I love you too, Mark. I actually do. And I thought of you about Hayward and you dissed me.
I don't understand.
That's all right, buddy. I don't think I dissed you. Just sometimes it's, you don't always get tone in text messages, Mark. So when we talk with each other, we're a lot, it flows a lot better when I get to hear your tone, those dulcet tones. Yes, so come on, man up. All right, let's change tact a little bit. 2025's coming.
Yep.
We've probably only got 1 or 2 spots left open in our side. Who's leaving the club and who's coming up?
There's one position that I'm pretty excited for. We've just this past week heard that Carl Oluwapu's got just about full clearance.
Yeah.
Back in the mix, training and all that. I think he's going to be added into that ring with Kurt Mann, Bailey Hayward as your ball playing lock. So I think there's going to be a bit of competition there. Kurt Mann playing incredible football. He's definitely back in the 13 jersey for me starting next season, but is definitely getting towards the end of his career. I just looked it up then. He's 31 years old. So and the career he's had, he's been beaten up pretty badly. So I think it'll be a bit of a battle between Carl and Bailey Hayward for that 14 role. I'd give Bailey the start for what he's done so far this season. But Carl coming back into the side, he showed some pretty good things last year when he had his chances. But yeah, pretty exciting player for me.
Yeah, I think he'll spend a lot of time in Cup next year, Carl, and I think he will be the one who's coming on. Bailey's got he is in the top 30 next year, Bailey Hayward, and he'll be proving whether to be extended further beyond that next year. So I think he'll be the one that will be in and out with Kurt, and Carl will be the next man up once he gets to that level. And hopefully he's fit and going at the preseason. But they'll see how his timing is. What I like about him coming in as that role is they don't need to manufacture him. I felt that it was all too rushed in 2023, though. I think there was I don't know what it was, but I think they were trying to, they were deliberately giving him the ball to kick. They were playing a structured way in New South Wales Cup in some games. It was like they were trying to prepare him for that first grade role, and they knew that he would.
I think they were trying to make him turn into a halfback, but it's not his game.
Yeah,
like he's a 6, but Burton's our 6, so they try to make one of them a halfback, but it didn't really fit. Yeah,
so I think he'll just get to develop in that small lock role with high skill, good passing ability, all the attributes. Plus, he's a hell of a defender and hits hard.
He's got great technique.
A few times I've heard the noises that he makes when he hits people. I heard the noise he made when he hit Hudson Young at Magic Round. I was right in front of it. So look, I see Carl sort of developing over that season, and getting an opportunity at some point due to injury or whatever it is. And I think you'll find that Kurt Mann, whether they keep him on a 1-year deal or something like that, or if he goes to Super League or whatever else, you don't expect he's going to be long-term with the Bulldogs, but his contribution is going to be enormous. And who knows, they might keep him if he's still playing well and he's having a good, you don't just throw those players out because they're playing well. You keep them and keep your squad strong.
Kurt Mann's a very good player for Carl to try to get his game sort of mirrored around. Both of them good ball runners with the passing game to back it up. So if Carl can spend some time with Kurt Mann over the next season, I think 2026 should be the year that Carl should be trying to get into the side in a more permanent basis.
Yeah, Mark thinks he's going to be looking like he'll be playing in the halves and kick Drew Hutchison out. Mark, if you've been watching New South Wales Cup, Drew Hutchison's one of the best New South Wales Cup halves going around. And because that's essentially he's too good for Cup, but probably not, in anyone's best 17 every single week. You know what I mean? Across the comp. Unless you've got a young half you're trying to develop like we did with Toby Sexton at the start of the year. And he'll do a job for you. Just like he did the job for the Roosters while Sam Walker got dropped last year while they prepared him and prepared the team. I don't think he's competing with Carl Oluwapu. But for me, Hutchison could be another one to step into that small lock role as well because he's got the size and he's got the defence and he's not afraid to run the football. So they could all be competing in that because I think Mitch Woods will be playing a bit of halfback next year in reserve grade. I'm not sure what's happening with Joey O'Neill. Like at the start of the season, I'm pretty sure they were wanting to offer him a long-term deal.
He was lighting it up at the start of the season. Very exciting, but it's definitely gone a bit quiet.
Attacking with the ball, he's been all right. Without the ball, he struggled defensively. But Haywood had the same issue last year in New South Wales Cup. He was throwing the arm out, getting flogged on the edge. And they won that last game in New South Wales Cup. They had a lot of changes, a lot of in and out, bit of instability there. Few players sort of, being shoved here and there and sort of getting tossed around in the wash, which is what happens in New South Wales Cup. players learning that they're not going to reach their dreams or have to go fight elsewhere for it. Other players, doing well, and then all of a sudden out of favour. It happens at every club. We just don't hear about it.
Yeah.
I think that, I think Carl Lawapu will be playing 13.
I hope that they do play him as a 13, develop him in that position. Because, he could be a half, he could be a 5'8", but he wouldn't be a 5'8" for us. So hopefully, they can turn him into that 13.
Yeah, and I think, as I said, he'll get an opportunity at some point next year, and if not, he'll be the option. You won't be in a bad place if you've got Carlo Lawapu and Bailey Hayward as your 13 and 14 in 2026 and beyond. You know what I mean? And I think that could be where they're sort of heading with that, because they're both saying Carl's only 19 years old.
Yeah. That's what I hope that it turns into. Carl as the starting 13 and Hayward as the 14 dummy half and lock rotation. I think that's the way to go looking forward. But it's just when we get there.
And both playing long minutes.
Yeah.
Mike Cool says, without Mark, the podcast wouldn't be the same. I don't think the world would be the same, Mike. He may be annoying, but we'll miss him. Part of having a good relationship with someone is when they do throw the bait, you got to take it. And I take it hook, line, and sinker. It's not fabricated though. Timmy says, do you think Josh Papali is in the mix to be retained? Good question, Tim. I just got a message from Pele saying he was going to come watch the podcast. Pele, he's working hard, doing a good job. Joe Ash's dad, he's a good bloke and works hard for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. Look, and he can't tell you anything because he's not allowed. All parents and everyone are sworn to secrecy, and if you breach any of that, you get in a heap of trouble at the Bulldogs. So I've heard that from about 12 different sources. And I'm not one to spread rumours, but I will say this. I think Canterbury have Connor Tracy, Blake Taft's there next year. I expect Hayes Perham will be going to another club. I don't have to be a rocket surgeon to say that, but I think he's still represented the Bulldogs well and done his best, and people should be very considerate how they talk about Hayes Perham. I also believe that Jacob Carraz, Stephen Crichton, and Blake Wilson, if he's still with the Bulldogs next year, which I expect him to be, I expect those players may be considered for a fullback role before Joash at this point. Just from what I've seen transpire through the year and what my feelings are, I think he may be another season away from a first grade debut with Canterbury. But I watched him closely in New South Wales Cup. I felt that they're a better defensive unit when he was playing fullback. I felt that his communication has been great. I felt his positioning's been good. He still struggles under the high ball, still has some issues in the game. He's quite fast, but not the fastest. Highly skillful, real team player. You could tell he loves Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs and would love to be a part of our first grade side and be a part of our future going forward. I'm just not sure he will get an opportunity next year. So there you go. That's just my honest opinion. I'm not sure if he will with Canterbury. And from what I've, talking to John Curry on the podcast, if you haven't watched it, I said we're going to lose some players, and we heard it with Gerald Skelton and plenty of others. When a player goes and says to Gus, "I've been made an offer," same thing with Jake Averillo. I've got an offer for $450 from the Dolphins. Gus is like, you can't say no to that. You can't say no to that. You must go. You've got to do what's right for your family. If that's what you want to do, we fully support you. That's what Gus Gould does. And part of being a developing club, which is what Canterbury wants to become, that's what you do. So we create this halves academy. We're going to produce all these halfbacks. I'm going to fall in love with most of them. And then in the future, they're going to be popping up playing regular first grade at other clubs. I just hope none of them are Jonathan Thurstons.
We've got every year we'll have 6 halves on the way up. We can only have 2 of them in our first grade team. So, best case scenario, we keep the best 2, but we keep developing them. Always have players on the way up. They can back up for us when the time comes, but otherwise they can move on and make the NRL better.
Well, speaking about Jake Averillo, I'll listen to the radio. They're going, "Oh, the master Wayne put him at 5'8". I'm like, he's a 5'8". He's a fullback. He's a footballer. Like him and Burton were the 2 best sixers in the under 18s against each other. We got Burton. Jake Averillo, like, what a great player. What a great player.
Yeah.
But defensively, good one-on-one defender. Good cover defender. But he's, in a good system, he'll be able to do a job. If he was at Canterbury this year, there wouldn't have been too many issues with defence. But at the end of the day, Matt Burton, Stephen Crichton, and probably even Bronson Xerri, when he gets to his best, are better defenders than Jake Averillo out wide.
Both bigger bodies, stronger in contact.
Cup is great, Michael, but is he Carlo Awapu? Mark, Carlo Awapu has a long way to go to be a great first grader. So he's going to develop in Cup next year. It's a small lock. If needed to jump into halves, if we have whatever, I reckon he'll get a go in there at some point. But I think he's going to come through as a small forward, as we talked about. And I think in the future we'll have Carl playing lock for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs and considered for Queensland and beyond in the future. Alex Connie coming through as well. Yeah, Breaks boy Alex Connie, one of the best young talents coming through. He's going to put pressure on. And Cassius Tia is playing Jersey Flegg halfback this week. Another one who is really talented. So we're not going to keep them all.
No.
But if Mitch Woods might break his knee next year, good, that in our system, they might just demand to be picked. Like, we can't just sit there and go, these kids, because we've signed them up and we know they're that good, injury can kill them all. So they've got to have a halves academy producing great talented halves and ball players, which is what we're going to do. Yeah. Michael, I've seen a lot of fans hate on Hutcho. The thing is, they haven't seen him play at all since the Raiders game, which is probably his best game. I've seen him play in Cup, and he has been fantastic. Yeah, good shout out, Michael. And I'd say the same thing. He's definitely led those boys around. He comes into the first grade squad as the 18th, 19th man. He's bouncing around. He's talking to players. He's teaching them things. I think he's got a good football IQ. But teams know that they can turn him one way or the other, and that he is pretty telegraphed because of his speed. He's not slow. He's just not quick. Yeah, and they know if they put pressure on that edge that he's less likely to throw the ball and run it. And Toby's thrown 2 intercepts in the last 3 weeks, where he has thrown the ball. Both going the left-hand way, though. I couldn't believe he threw the ball to DCE last week. I'll forgive him.
Parked in the line.
Like, he was right there. He's like, here you go. But,
they were mirrored, the Averillo one and the Xerri one.
Yeah, I think. Well, Jake's got the speed where he sort of ran onto it. Whereas Cherry Evans took it nearly standing
for
still.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe it. I was like, fuck no, Toby.
Yeah.
Mark says, without Mike, we'll lose credibility. After this week's game, everyone will see Hutcho as a good half. As a good halves partner. I fucking hope so, mate. I'm not hating on Drew, Mark said. He's seen a little side chat happening here. Joe Ash has to be retained. He's a gun. Mark, how much money are you going to pay Joe Ash Papali to stay at Canterbury if he's offered, say, a top 30 spot and 200 grand plus at another club like Melbourne or Parramatta or the Roosters, for example, or Cronulla? Let's say a few different clubs, St George. How much money should we pay to keep Joash Papali if he's offered that sort of money from those clubs?
There's no clear runway for him to get into our first grade side. He's definitely not a player I want to lose, but yeah, it sort of is what it is. You got to see what the market's looking like.
Oh, yeah, it's one of those things, you got Connor Tracy coming to our club, and I'm like, part of me is like, oh, I wish we just go Joash a run or whatever. It's as much about luck as timing. But then you watch Connor Tracy play, and he's 27 years old. He's got the miles in his leg. He's got the hunger. He knows what he's doing. And you're sitting there and you're saying, I'm watching someone who's in the top 5 or 6 fullbacks in the game this year. And he's playing for the Bulldogs. That instantly makes us a top 8 team almost, because we haven't had a fullback that good for a long time. It's a real shame. If he comes to my door and he tells me he can he's going top 30 with Parramatta or with Melbourne or something like that. Well, if it was Melbourne, I'd be like, you sure you want to move to Melbourne? And they got Falago there and Pappenhausen. It's like, oh, well, Pappenhausen.
You could see it.
Yeah. But Parramatta, I'm like, while they're the arch enemy, I'm like, for your family and stuff,
I'd
be going there. I'd be saying, yeah, go for it. And hopefully we have to pay $1 million to get you back one day, Well, not hopefully, but you want them to do well,
Yeah, all of our juniors.
Mark says Wilson is committed to the Dogs. Well, the problem, Mark, there was he went back to New South Wales Cup before he got injured, and apparently he was sulking a bit, which isn't Bulldog behaviour anymore. I know it's human behaviour, Mark. I get it before you bite. But it's not Bulldog behaviour. Our guys, they get dropped. They suck it up and say, oh, I wasn't good enough. I need to be better.
There's clear front runners for his position as well. It's going to take a lot for him to get into our side. I really like him as a third winger for our team, but for us, that's what he is, the third winger.
Tim says that was when Steve Reardon went through the gates as well. He had a kid coming through. Jed Reardon. Is Jed playing in Jersey Flag this week? Not sure.
No, I couldn't tell
you. Steve Reardon's got 2 sons, actually. Fun fact, we haven't lost a game with Hutcho as 5'8". We're 1 from 1. Don't diss Averillo, mate. Who dissed Averillo? Who dissed him? I said he was the second best player in the comp as an 18-year-old, as a 5'8". And I said he's not as good as a defender as Burton, Crichton, or Xerri.
Yeah, I was very disappointed that Averillo signed with the Dolphins, but if you compare him to the centers we have now, I don't think we're losing anything.
Yeah. For 450 grand, I think he did the right thing for himself and his family, and he's definitely showcased himself as a really good player. If that defense develops and you put him in the right system, that's what I mean. In our system this year, I don't think he would have been a liability at all. I think he has as many good moments as he's had with the Dolphins. I just think that defensively he's just not quite as good. And when you got Xerri for a minimum payment for a couple of years and looking to prove himself and come ahead way quicker than anyone expected, you wouldn't change it. You wouldn't change it. I cried when Jake Everett said he was leaving, and that's not a lie. Thanks, Tahi. You'd pay Joash 500K as a minimum. So who would you get rid of, Mark? Out of the salary cap.
That's about what Tracy's on, isn't it? Connor Tracy.
Connor Tracy's on a little bit less than that.
Yeah. Jeez.
And how do we upgrade Bronson Xerri? How do we upgrade Corraz again? Because we'll need to. How do we upgrade Critter? Probably not going to upgrade Matt Burton, like with more money or heaps of money.
I think we've got him a pretty good deal for us, but I think he should be pretty happy with where he's at as well.
Timmy says Josh provides utility value, but can't fit them all in, and Hayes in the top 30 next year. I think Harry Hayes will be on a development contract next year and come into the top 30 the year after. That's what I think will happen with Harry Hayes. He was on a train and trial. I'm probably technically wrong, but that's how he started this season. New South Wales Cup train and trial. Trained with the top 30 a lot as a shadow player as well in the scrimmages, and just kept pushing till he knocked the door down. And maybe if he plays that role next year and gets an opportunity like Kurt Morin, maybe they upgrade him to the top 30 squad earlier.
Going to be
because
he's a tough one for me to take from the side. I'm very impressed with how he's come into the squad.
Yeah, Michael, it was perception that his head was down and stuff, and that come from a couple of fans and stuff like that, and people I talked to. He just didn't have the same sort of body language that he has around the first grade side, because they all love Wilso. So yeah, and then he got injured that game too, which didn't help. Park, he's not the best winger at the club. He's a very good winger. He might be today, but he's not at the moment.
It's not even an argument.
It's a ridiculous argument to even have. It's like saying I'm not overweight, because I fucking am. If we finish fifth, who are we more confident beating week one in the finals? Good question, Timmy.
Who do we got? Most likely out of Knights and Dolphins, that's the likely opposition. We've beat them both by pretty good scores recently.
I think both are going to be tough for us to beat. Part of me, I feel like the Knights are really, I don't know if they're going to be scarred or if they're going to be like extra. They'll be extra in it because we have embarrassed them like they embarrassed us last year. We've embarrassed them back this year in spades, and I think they'll be wanting to play the Bulldogs. That's who I think they prefer to go to Canterbury and play Canterbury than play any other club. Not to say we can't beat them. And I just think the Dolphins are always going to worry about that side. I don't think it's overperforming. I think it's got a very good roster and a very good coach.
Any team with Wayne Bennett is scary. It's scary to play against come finals.
100%. Manly at Brookvale, don't like that option either. So beating Cowboys, we go to fifth. part of me thinks playing Manly at a core. I think we'll beat the Cowboys. I really do. But we'll see. Mark says we don't upgrade Critter and definitely not Xerri. So Mark's one of these people who just makes up his mind early. Bronson Xerri has been an absolute revelation. He's getting upgraded, no doubt about it. But I did ask you what you would change. And Stephen Crichton will be paid, he'll be one of the highest paid players in the game at some point. But I don't think he'll be greedy. The Dogs will just give him what he's worth because that's how Gus operates. He'll be like, well, based on our cap, this is what you're worth to our cap. He's not going to get – he's going to get more than 800 mark when they upgrade him. But he is here for 4 years. They maybe upgrade him in the final year and then just so they don't have to pay him as much when they do the extension. If you don't think he's had an influence in our club, like I've eaten a lot of humble pie around Stephen Crichton, but I already started eating it last year before he got here. He's been phenomenal. Harry, train and trial. I'm working on an answer, Tim. Thanks, Pete. Yeah, but Mark, you also said that Bulldogs 5th, Dragons would finish 8th. And that's still a chance of happening, by the way. But you're very strong with your opinion. As if I hope Xerri's with us forever. He's getting that premiership tattoo this year, mark my words. Oh, I bloody hope you're right, Michael. Mark should listen to you, mate. He won't argue with you. He won't argue with you at all. He'll only argue with me. All right, guys, I think we've had a really good chat. We're nearly at the 2 hours. I think that's long enough. I don't think we need to be bloke in a bar and go for 3 hours. And I don't need to be down in camp and talk for 7 hours.
This is by far the longest I've talked for.
Hey?
This is by far the longest I've gone for. Bit different to the 20-30 minute.
You've done really bloody good, mate. Lucas says, hi, Michael. Crichton and Xerri have been great for us all year. Thanks, Mark. And thank you, Mark. You've made the podcast. You're like, let's make the podcast great again. You trump it up for us. Michael thinks we beat the Cowboys in a close one, 22-18. Tim says, thanks, Mick. And Jayden, you're a champ. The good stuff.
Appreciate it, Tim.
Thanks for everyone who's tuned in. Thanks to everyone who watches after the fact. And, we will get out our centres for our best all things Bulldogs. I'm just going to give people a little secret. Hey?
Who's your favourite one centre?
Mine?
Yeah.
Oh, it's bloody hard, mate. Bloody hard. I was going to say Matt Burton just to be a smart ass, but I'm not on that train.
No.
I loved Chris Mortimer and I loved Andrew Farah. I absolutely loved Willie Tonga for a couple of years. Willie Talau. I could just name them all. Darren Smith when he was there. Jared McCracken. I don't mind Stephen Crichton. And I like Jake Averillo there last year. I think Bronson Xerri, just to make Mark happy.
Yeah. One of my favourites growing up, that is definitely not a historical Bulldog, but Chris Ninu was very fun to watch.
Who is that? Oh, Chris Ninu, smiling, yeah. And there was Nigel Vunganar he should have been a premiership winner of the Bulldogs. Yeah. If we beat the Cowboys by 30 and Manly beat the Sharks by 30, we make the top 4. So there you go.
Easy.
If we beat the Cowboys by 30 plus, I'll make a flag for the first time to show it off week 1 of the finals against probably the Dolphins at Accor. Love your positive vibes, Mike. Some love from Timmy. Yeah, well, that's what I was just about to allude to. I don't know if people have heard of Timu. Whatever. But I've been making some stuff with Timu, personalised stuff for myself. And it's bloody cheap. Now, I'd prefer people to go and support Aussie people, if you can, and Aussie businesses that do printing and whatever else. But if you don't have much money and you're looking for some Bulldog stuff, you can get a good photo. You can go onto Temu, and there might be some other sites that do it as well, and make your own Bulldogs merchandise. And I'm telling you what, ideally you want to go and buy from the club itself, right, and give money to the club. That's exactly what I do as well. But people are struggling out there and don't have much money and everything's expensive. You can make yourself a nice flag or anything like that for really cheap, $5-10. Check it out. But and my mum actually made this for me out of some Bulldogs washers. She died in 2013. So there's the old 2004. Made a pillow for me. We all do what we can to express our love for the Bulldogs. And anyone struggling for money or whatever, there's a way to go and make some merch for yourself. So there you go. Tahi says, Nigel Vangana. Good night, great show. Thanks, Jayden. You're awesome. You are awesome, Jayden.
Thank you very much.
You must be ready for bed, mate.
Yeah, definitely. I reckon.
Yeah, sorry we kept you on 2 hours, but
no, it's been really good. I appreciate the invite. Good to get on here. Finally, good to get on with you.
All right, buddy. Well, I'll say goodbye to everyone else, and I'll let you go in a second. So good night, guys. Go the doggies. Thanks for everyone who joined, and we'll see you soon. One last word from Michael. The boys will be strong on Saturday, and he'll be at the game. Right, do a sign. All Things Bulldogs. All right, Mike.
Throw a Just Bulldogs in there.
Oh, yeah.